So now we're going to actually look at the Blackboard page so you can see what is available. So if you go into the course Blackboard page, you should see a screen that looks like this. Syllabus, schedule, links to 2 videos, one on how to upload a paper onto Blackboard, and the other is how to take a Blackboard quiz. If you're not sure how to do those things, click on those videos, watch them. Those are optional though, they're just there for your information. And then you also see the week 1 and week 2 folders. And if you scroll down, it'll go all the way to week 6. And I organize things by week. That gives you, I think, a good amount of flexibility on the advantages of an online class, while also making sure that the work doesn't just pile up and people get overwhelmed at the end by just, putting things off because there's other things coming up in their lives. When I'm teaching an in-person class, I give people a copy of the schedule because I want them to carry it with them to class. And also I would encourage them even to photocopy it so they can put a copy on their wall. If you come into my office, I typically have the schedules of the classes I'm teaching up on my wall. So I can actually just look over it and then say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what's coming due. And so this is how I need to prepare for my courses. So I highly recommend that you do this. This is a good way to make sure that you don't forget things. I'm a forgetful person, and this is one of the kind of methods I've come up with to help me remember what I'm supposed to be doing. You'll notice, first of all, at the top, it gives my name, Dr. Franklin Rausch, and my email. Also gives my phone number and my office number. This is a summer class. I only come into the office a couple days a week during the summer. So calling me on my office phone or just dropping by my office to see if I'm there, good chance that I'm not going to be there to deal with to answer that. However, I do usually check my email multiple times a day. And as a general rule, if you email me and you don't hear back from me within 24 hours, please just email me again. Send that email again. I won't be offended. Typically, I get back to people within 24 hours. So that's the kind of contact information. Now, if we look at this by week, one thing I just want to note, June 26th to 30, that's not a full week, but classes begin on June 26th, which is a Wednesday. And remember, this class is supposed to be similar to an in-person class in terms of how often and for how long students meet, how often, in a sense, though, we're meeting online, and in terms of how long they're in class and class time and so forth. So because of that, week 1, you don't have as much work to do. Week 2, similarly, is over July 4th. So you don't have as much work to do because students in person would only attend 3 days of class, not 4 days of class, because July 4th is a holiday. So do keep that in mind, especially for these first couple weeks, because weeks 3, 4, and 5 will be fuller. They'll have more material than weeks 1 and 2 because those are weeks when students would be meeting more. So just keep that in mind. Don't think, oh, this is easy. There will be more work later on. So what you'd want to do, you want to watch the videos linked in the videos folder of week 1 folder. And you'll notice I have everything arranged by week. And that's where I try and give you some flexibility. I don't say you have to, for the most part, I don't say you have to just do this on this particular day. Other than a sense of the weekly password, right, which I have due a little bit early. That's due Thursday. Classes begin Wednesday. The weekly password has to be sent to me by Thursday. Other than that, you'll see that everything is for that week is due by Sunday. And that's to give you as much flexibility as possible. Now, that doesn't mean try and watch all the videos on Sunday and do all those assignments on Sunday. That would be very difficult. You probably won't do very well. But the idea is to give you as much flexibility as possible. So you'll notice that after it says weekly password due by Thursday, there's the writing assignment due by Sunday, the introductory quiz due by Sunday, and the week 1 quiz. Or the introductory quiz is just over the syllabus and the succeeding online video portion. So that's kind of a separate quiz. The week 1 quiz is over all those videos other than the succeeding one and so forth in the week 1 folder. And that's why it's arranged in this way, is to kind of help you think this is the general order you should be doing things, right? You need to start watching the videos. You need to make sure you get me that weekly password by Thursday, but you want to make sure you watch all those videos and get me the weekly password before you try and do these other things. And you definitely want to watch all those videos before you watch the week 1 quiz. But ideally, this makes it clear what it is that you need to be doing, right? And maximizes flexibility while still keeping things on task and keeping things moving. And then week 2, you can see it's very similar. Watch the videos linked in videos folder week 2, weekly password due by Tuesday, writing assignment 2 due by Sunday, quiz 2 due by Sunday as well. So try and keep things fairly regular week in and week out, but it helps just in case, because there will sometimes be differences to, like I say, download the schedule, print it out, put it on a wall or somewhere else where you can easily access it. So backing out of the schedule, let's go to week 1. Let's have a look at the week 1 folder. And like I said, it's pretty easy to see what is due each week because you can look at the schedule and then you can just look in the folder and all the materials will be in the folder. So once you've clicked on the week 1 folder, you should see something like this. Right? It has the links to multiple videos. There's the Succeeding in an Online Class video, the World in the 19th Century video, and the Section 1 China to 1894 Part 1 video. But what I really want to focus on is the week 1 study guide. And that is not a link to a video, that is a link to a Word document. And this document should then pop up. Now, I want to stress that you should save this document, right? This is the link you would save it, and then that will allow you to answer these questions. Now, one thing I have to stress, this is not an easy course, in part because of the amount of material we have to cover. Because it's a summer course, we have to cover that material rather quickly. So that's something we have to keep in mind. So one way that I try and help people organize this is I give lots of questions. And one thing I should also add that makes this particularly difficult is because we're covering China, Japan, and Korea, there's a lot of names that you probably are not familiar with. Even if you're familiar with one of those countries' histories, there's probably a good chance you aren't familiar with the other two. But like I said, I try and give people a lot of questions, and the quizzes and exams are open note. So if you take the time to actually answer these questions, then you will likely do very well on the quizzes and the exams. Now, if you look at question 1, it says, what are the 4 revolutions discussed in this video? What is their relationship to being modern? And it says in parentheses, start section 0. So that is a clue that you're going to be working on section 0. And that will kind of help you know whether you need to look at another video, move to another section, or whether if you miss some information, whether you need to go back and look a little bit more closely at that video instead of going on to the next one. And if you look at question 5, it says, why does this course start with China? And then it says in parentheses, start section 1. That means that you're going to be wanting to watch the section 1 videos. Now, I don't divide up the section videos by parts in the study guide, but I do give you the sections. That's because sometimes there's some questions that might cross over parts. But in any case, it does tell you the correct section that you should be looking at. And I really want to stress, you want to be filling these things out and keeping up with them, that will make you, and studying them, that will make your life a lot easier. I think what can really help is that you're watching the video and you type notes to these questions as the video is progressing. Pause it when you need to. When you're done watching the video, then you would go back through and make your notes into complete sentences, because if you can't do that, you probably don't understand the information. Sometimes people just write down the bullet points, but that's just copying. You can copy something without understanding it, but if you have to write it in complete sentences, there's a very good chance that you understand it. And there's a saying, you can't teach something unless you understand it, right? And in a sense, if you can write something out in complete sentences, it's basically like teaching it. Now, if you were to continue down this study guide, you'll notice that on question 20, it says questions based on feature history Opium Wars video. So there is another video that is not a video I made. And typically when it's a video that I make, I just have them numbered. But when it's a video that I'm linking to that's on like YouTube or something like that, that's not something I made, I do it in this style. Right, so this tells you, oh, we're out of the section 1 videos for now. We're on this other video, the Opium Wars video, and you will see this if you look in the week 1 folder, and I have these in order. Right, so it should be very easy to kind of go down through it. But you can see then there's these 5 questions based on that feature history Opium Wars video. And then you'll notice question 21, I have several questions, and then in parentheses it says continue section 1. So it's letting you know that, okay, we were in section 1, now we did this feature history Opium Wars video. Okay, now we're back to section 1. And after the questions section, there also are a terms section. And you can find these terms throughout the section. I generally have them in the order that they will appear. And you can see that they're also ordered by sections. So it says Confucius, and then parentheses start section 1. So that means everything else is from section 1 until you get to Amaterasu, which is where you would start section 2. Now for these names and terms, these are things that I'm often going to be using all throughout the section and maybe past the section. So it's very important that you remember these names. For example, we'll talk about something called the Qing. The Qing is a dynasty ruled by Manchus, and we will continuously refer to the Qing. And if you don't understand who the Qing are, and I talk about them in that very first section, you're going to be really confused throughout the whole class. So it's very important that you know these terms and you be able to recognize them. I'm not going to ever ask you to spell them correctly, but you do need to recognize them. And in particular for names, such as, say, Confucius, you need to know where the person is from. Confucius is from China. What their job was. Confucius was an official who became a teacher who taught a philosophy that became very important in China. Why they're important, I'll let you watch the video to get a sense of that. But one thing I would point out that's important about Confucius is that his teachings will become the focus of Chinese civilization and the Chinese exam system. And that would be an example of what makes him important. So you need to know those three things, and that's how you can kind of organize things. Where's this person from? What their job was? Why they're important. Some things like Qing are not people, they're things. You want to note what country this is associated with. Qing is associated with China. And what it is it was a dynasty, right? So you need to know what it is. Why is it important? Well, again, that is the last dynasty of China. I will be continuously referring back to them as we progress through the class. If you were to go back to the Week 1 folder and scroll down, you would see this. You see it says Section 1 China 1894 Part 3, so that's still Section 1, but the third part, and I break those videos up so they won't be too long. I usually try and keep them 20 to 30 minutes. Some are 40, 50, but I try and keep them shorter, so and that helps me stay a little bit more focused, and it hopefully will help you stay focused. But sometimes because of the subject matter, I do have to have a longer video. Then Section 2 Japan to 1894 Part 1, Section 2 Japan to 1894 Part 2, and then that's all the videos you should watch for the week, right? Once you've watched all those videos for the week, you are done watching videos for the week unless you need to review. Now, once you've watched all those videos, then it's safe to start taking quizzes, right? You could go ahead and take that introductory quiz. This is also where the Week 1 quiz would show up when it actually is set to show up. Usually I don't like to set that to show up on the first day of class for the week because I don't want someone to accidentally take it when they haven't had a chance to watch the videos. And then next, you'll also see the writing assignment, right? The writing assignment is also due. And I usually encourage people to do that before they do the quizzes or the exams because the writing assignment can help them kind of reflect and prepare for the exam. But that's where you'll find everything. So in that Week 1 folder, or you're going to find all the assignments and all the videos you need, and it's by that every week. Week 2 has everything you need for Week 2, Week 3, and so forth. Now, of course, for the midterm and finals, as we'll talk about later, you do have to go back, right, perhaps, and look at some old material. But basically, Week 1 stuff is in Week 1. Week 2 stuff is in Week 2, and so on and so forth. So now let's talk a little bit more about the writing assignment. The first writing assignment is going to be based on the study guide. Most of the writing assignments will be based around primary sources that you will read, but I think the study guides are really important, so that's why I want the first assignment to be based on those study guides. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to fill out the study guide. If you don't do that, you're going to have a really hard time on the exams. But if you do that, and you do it well, then the exams will be pretty easy. Remember, they're open note, and you can use your study guides when you're preparing them. Don't use someone else's study guides, but you can use your own. And so I have to really emphasize that doing this right, doing this well, is really going to help you. If you cannot do that, if you look at the study guide and look at the videos and look at this assignment, and you're like, oh, I can't possibly do this, I'm not going to have enough time, that's when you need to drop the class, right? I want people to take this class and do well. I don't want them to take this class and do poorly, right? And to do well, then you need to have the time to invest in actually learning the material and preparing it. And one thing I'll stress is that if a student contacts me and says, I'm really having trouble with this class, I'm not doing well in the exams, one thing I will ask, and I'm not doing this to be mean, I'm doing this to help, I'm going to say, can you please send me your study guides, right? Please email me your study guides. And if the student's like, oh, I haven't been filling those out, well, that's why they're doing poorly, right? There is no kind of shortcut. It's investing the time to learn the material. So all that being said, for this assignment, you will answer the questions from the Week 1 study guide. Your answer should be typed in complete sentences below each question. Failure to include the questions will result in a penalty to your grade. This assignment must be submitted to Blackboard in Doc or DocX format. Failure to upload in a readable format will result in a minus penalty -2 penalty, and the paper will not be graded until it's uploaded properly by the deadline list in the schedule. So, like I mentioned before, it has to be on Blackboard to be graded. I can't have papers here and papers there, or whatever. They have to all be on Blackboard. This assignment is worth 25 points. If you have trouble finding the necessary information, I would encourage you to re-watch the relevant video. It's much more efficient than trying to use Wikipedia or some other source, which will include a lot of information you don't need to know for this class. Wikipedia is awesome, has a lot of good information in it, but usually I only want you to know a few things about someone, whereas Wikipedia will have a huge amount of information and you won't know exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And I want to stress, this is the assignment for this is the first writing assignment. Other writing assignments will not be the study guide, but still you want to keep completing these. This is just to make people do it in a sense, and then see how well it helps them, how it makes that quiz or exam easier, and hopefully then they will continue to complete it. So how do you do well in this class? First of all, keeping up with the weekly schedule, right? You do not want to fall behind. People in a summer class can easily fall behind, and the problem is because it's so compressed, right? If you miss a couple classes during a regular class semester, like in the fall or in the spring, it's not usually a huge deal. It depends on what it is. But if you miss a couple classes, if you kind of just zone out for a week with an online class, it can absolutely destroy your grade because it's so compressed. So keep up with that weekly schedule. One thing that also helps, I think, is to actually have a look at the study guide before you watch the videos, just to know what kind of information you're looking for. Then have a regular time for watching the videos. And I discussed this in Succeeding in an Online Class, but I really want to emphasize this. It's good to block off a certain time to watch the videos. I actually block off certain time for making videos, right? I choose the time that I'm the freshest, I'm the most awake, and that's when I make videos. You want to make sure you're actively listening, watching the videos. Don't have them on in the background and try and do something else. That will not work. You want to be watching them and taking notes while you're watching. I would encourage you to have the pause button ready so you can pause it, so you can finish taking notes if you need a little bit more time to catch up. That would also, if you want to, you can, at that moment, as you answer questions from the study guide, as we look over the videos from the study, or as you're watching the video, you've got your study guide out, you're taking notes based on the relevant study guide question, pause it, turn those notes into full sentences, right? Whatever works for you. The key thing is that you're paying attention to the movie, to the video, to the documentary, whatever it is. You're watching it, you're taking notes. I think it's a really good thing to do is to have your study guide open, take notes under those questions, under the relevant question, and then make them into complete sentences either after pausing the video or once you're done with that video. Also, one thing I highly recommend is for the terms to make note cards. You have the name of the person on one side and then all that other information on the other. My in-person class, that's a required assignment that people make note cards, but I'm not going to require it in this class because it'd be very hard for you to turn them in. Once you complete the relevant video, if you have not already done so, answer those study guide questions and make note cards. Review your notes, study guides, and note cards frequently. If you try and take the quiz without reviewing your notes, try and take an exam without reviewing your notes frequently, you're not going to do well. And you're going to be like, wow, a minute's just not enough time to answer these questions. That's because you don't know the material. And I've written the exam with the understanding that, and the expectation, I should say, that people will learn the material. Right? So review your notes, study guides, and note cards frequently, even though these are open note. Right? Review them frequently. And one thing, and you don't want to do this as a substitution or as cramming, right before you take the quiz or exam, just do a quick glance through your notes, just so you're familiar again with them. Make sure you complete all the assignments, exams, and quizzes on time. If you run into problems, deal with them early. Right? Like I said, I will be checking email frequently. I will be able to respond to emails. And I mentioned this again in the Succeeding in Online section, but I will mention this again. Do not put off tests until the last minute. Do not do that. Right? I mentioned earlier I had a student, very smart student, but she kept doing badly on her exams because she waited till like 10 p.m. Sunday to take the exams, and she was just tired. So make sure you're taking those exams when you're fresh. All that being said, if you have trouble, if you have issues, please let me know. I love this material. I want students to learn the material and do well, and I'm happy to do what I can to help you do those things. So good luck with the class, and I look forward to working with you.